one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Martin Luther King Jr. spoke these famous words that would change the nation in ways that no one could imagine. Martin Luther King Jr. was a very influential leader during the Civil Rights Movement. The Civil Rights Movement was a movement for African American equality. African Americans were separated from whites, whether it was in school, on a bus, or using the restroom. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was born on January 15, 1929. He grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. His father and grandfather were both pastors, and every Sunday Martin and his family would go to church and listen to his father preach. Martin graduated from high school and started college at the age of 15. He then went on to study theology in Pennsylvania. He then moved to Boston, Massachusetts, where he continued studying and met and married his wife, Coretta Scott. Coretta was an intelligent woman who also had a strong passion for the civil rights movement. Martin followed in his father's and grandfather's footsteps, and at the age of 25, he became a pastor in Montgomery, Alabama. Martin grew up in a country where African Americans were treated unfairly by whites. When Martin was a little boy, he could not attend school with white children. Now that he was an adult, he wanted to be a part of the fight for civil rights. In other words, Martin wanted to lead the African Americans to help them earn rights and equality. He did not want to see African Americans and whites in separate classrooms any longer. He wanted them to learn to love each other despite their skin color. Martin took on many leadership roles during the Civil Rights Movement. He was on the committee at the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People and a leader in the Montgomery bus boycott in 1953. African Americans were forced to sit in the back of buses while whites sat in the front. However, one day, an African American woman named Rosa Parks decided to break this rule and sat at the front of the bus. This started the Montgomery bus boycott. Rosa and Martin worked hard during the Montgomery bus boycott to help African Americans gain their rights. During this boycott, Martin was arrested, but thanks to Martin and Rosa's hard work, African Americans were finally allowed to sit in any seat on the bus. During Martin's time in jail, he wrote a letter entitled A Letter from a Birmingham Jail. In this letter, Martin wrote about his hopes and dreams for America. In 1957, after serving his time in jail, Martin was elected president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, a civil rights organization. That same year, the Civil Rights Act of 1957 was passed, which ensured that all African Americans had the right to vote. Martin was extremely dedicated to his work to earn African American equality. He wrote 5 books, many magazine and newspaper articles, and spoke over 2,000 times. His most famous speech, called I Have a Dream, was given in Washington, D.C. on August 28, 1963. In this speech, he stated that his children, along with all other African Americans, will live in a country where they are not judged by their skin color and that all men are created equal. At the age of 35, Martin became the youngest person to receive a Nobel Peace Prize. He earned the Nobel Peace Prize because of his hard work during the Civil Rights Movement. He continued to contribute to the Civil Rights Movement by donating all of his money he earned from his award. On April 4, 1968, Martin was shot and killed at the Lorraine Hotel in Tennessee at the age of 39. Despite his death, Martin was and continues to be an important leader in the Civil Rights Movement. His birthday is now a national holiday, and his name continues to be a symbol of freedom.
We'll be